welcome back to Facilitate TV. Can I please get you to introduce yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Jesper Eriksson. I'm the CEO of Symcel. So we're a Swedish-based medtech company. In essence, building out what we believe is the fastest growth-based rapid sterility testing method out there. In this space, one of the key hurdles that we're addressing is, rapid QC. So one of the big problems is that QC takes too long. The slowest of the test is sterility, so often takes 7, 14 days, even up to 21 days. And the value prop is basically we can cut the speed by 70%, so less than a 3-day assay, and it's just reduces cost and vein-to-vein time basically.
Excellent. So what is it about these approaches so far for QC that makes it 7 days, 14 days, 21 days? Why is it that this has kind of been accepted as the status quo?
Right. So if you start on the manufacturing aspect, so manufacturing has seen this great revolution over the past few years, faster, automated, but QC hasn't seen the same kind of evolution or revolution, if you like. So one aspect is because it's still using kind of legacy methods from biologics, where it's not time critical basically. So not time critical, not patient specific. So it's taking time, and I think this is kind of one of the next arenas to innovate on. Right. So I think that's one of the key reasons. I think the other aspect is that talking about advanced therapies. So it's quite difficult for normal methods to actually detect. We're talking about 1 to 2 bugs. Right. In the presence of millions of cells. So I think it's just been a challenge for some of the legacy methods to do it.
Right. Makes sense. And obviously that massively contributes to the timelines of being able to get these therapies into patients in a timely manner, right? We've all heard the story, someone gets their CAR T therapy, for example, they end up being cancer free, but the disease has just progressed so much they still end up dying. And so this is obviously something we can do to make sure that story doesn't happen nearly as often.
Yeah.
Okay, so with regards to your approach, you guys are now able to do sterility testing in 3 days. Take me through how you do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat way actually. So we have a fairly orthogonal approach to this. So basically all living microbes produce heat. If they're dead, they don't. And we, in essence, measure this heat with very high sensitivity. So the method is called isothermal microcalorimetry. So we're the first to actually innovate that fully into biology. So it's a direct metabolic measurements. So we're in essence, tapping into one of the fundamentals of life, metabolism, and basically it's independent of the complexity of background. It's more like the more complex a sample, the more relevant we are, because these bugs will always produce heat, and the cellular background will not to the same extent, basically. So.
Very interesting. Okay, so so walk me through that. So what's happening in day 1, day 2, and then ultimately in day 3 you can release it?
Right. So in essence, when you validate it, so before you're using it with patients, obviously have to validate it. So in essence, we're validating it without cells, and then any therapy developer will validate it with cells basically. So what you're doing is you're following the pharmacopoeia, you're testing a number of different microbes in there, any bug that could be in your facility, and you're looking at specificity, can we detect all these bugs? You're looking at sensitivity, can we do it in a very low inoculum in the presence of cells? So that's in essence what people are doing. And I think one of the key aspects here has been growth pace, so whatever we detect is viable contamination, and also continuous readout, which means that 3 days is super fast, but because it's continuous, you can also do a risk-based negative to-day testing like a conditional release, which is also very interesting.
Gotcha. Okay, so on top of that, I would be curious to learn about the early traction you've seen with this method. What have you guys seen so far with regards to the industry?
Yeah, so we're fairly early in the market, kind of new kid on the block. We started placing instruments 1.5 or 2 years ago. Very enthusiastic feedback. Some of the things I can mention is we announced a strategic R&D partnership with Johnson & Johnson October for taking this into a fully validated 3-day protocol. That's pretty good. And also as a small player, you're dependent on larger companies being willing to actually test and adopt new technologies. Roche Diagnostics presented one of the first present last year in May, breakthrough technology for cell and gene, and then a number of other smaller players that are willing to take a bet, work with us. Having a very sound kind of scientific build-up and work together. It's a very collaborative approach, basically. Generally, it's either companies that have an assay or an asset that has to have a rapid release, like a fresh product, or you're like late clinical stage preparing for commercial and you're just doing everything to reduce vein-to-vein time and cost.
Very good. So on top of that, I would be curious about where you kind of see the QC release industry moving in the next couple of years. Do you think it's possible to get even lower than 3 days, or do you think that's kind of the maximum that we'll be able to get to? And again, 3 days is amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think 3 days for us is a start. We're close to 2 days already.
There we go. Hey.
Closing in, but I think generally for us, I think, seeing adoption, working with other partners, taking it through the regulatory hurdle, seeing more adoption. But then for us, again, we're measuring metabolism. So, we're playing with things like metabolic boosters and things that can make it faster. So I think on our case, we're going to try to make it as fast as possible. Let's see where it ends. And I think also many other, developers, not just sterility, but look at other assays to, completely make use release faster. I mean, people are looking for like 24-hour or instant release. Let's see how far we take it, but I think the goal is as fast as possible.
Phenomenal. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Likewise, thanks for having me.